Welcome back to the channel. If you want to get free grant money this year, here are the steps you need to follow right now. Step number 1, you need to learn. So when we talk about learning, I'm talking about going to the Grant Learning Center for an overview of grants that you have on the grants.gov government, because you have a whole constellation of grants. So this is very important because you cannot actually try to get free grant money if you have no idea what kind of grants you are looking for. So when you go to that grants.gov website, you have a diversity of information sources. What we love here is that you have everything there, boss. So you can learn about the grant life cycle and management, because there is a life cycle to every grant, from the application to the application submission to the auditing to everything else. So this is very important that you have a clear idea of the grant life cycle and management. So you can learn about grant policies. So you have laws and regulations for federal awards, because there is a specific set of rules that govern all of federal grants and state grants as well. You have to learn about grant eligibility. So the question is, are you eligible to apply for grants? Depending on the specific type of grant that you want to have. This is very important. And you can also learn about grant terminology. Some acronyms are so important for you to really have a clear idea of what kind of grants you are applying for. If you go to grants.gov, what we love here also is that, and we have been doing this research for so many years, there are so many grant agencies. I'm talking about federal grant making agencies. See, the whole thing here is that if you want to get free grant money, you got to know the agencies that actually dole out that kind of cash. Okay, obviously it's not free cash, but there are, I would say, restricted cash. You just have to make sure that you actually comply with the conditions. If you go to grants.gov, we love the fact that you can learn about grant systems. I'm speaking here about tools and apps to register and manage grants. See, there's a whole industry that surrounds the grant making processes. Okay, you can learn about grant programs, the diversity of grant programs in this country. There's even some grant careers you can learn about. If you want to become a grant writer or a grant coordinator, there is again a whole constellation of jobs surrounding grants. You can learn about grant reporting, grant fraud, and grant events. So what I want you to really do here is that I want you to really understand that there is a whole world surrounding the grants.gov and the whole federal grants making machine. And the more familiar you get yourself with that machine, the better it is for you. I want you to really also learn about, there are other things I want you to, so the first step I want you to do is to learn. If you want to get free grant money, the first thing is you need to learn. Step number 2, boss, you want to check. Make sure you are eligible for the specific grant that you want to apply for before applying in the first place. Okay, so depending on whether you are eligible to apply for and receive a federal grant, it's very important. If you're not legally eligible for a specific funding opportunity, you will waste a lot of time and money completing the application process when you cannot actually receive the grant. So when considering eligibility, the very first step, is to know what type of organization you represent, or whether you are applying as an individual. Okay, so the good thing is, if you already know whether you will apply on behalf of your organization or as an individual, then you are ready to check your eligibility. And everything happens on the grant.gov website. Okay, there are many types of organizations generally eligible to apply for funding opportunities on grant.gov. And each type of organization listed in the categories on the screen is a specific search criteria in search grants on search.gov. On grant.gov rather. So the point I'm trying to make here is what? You can apply as an individual, you can apply as part of a team, you can apply as an organization. Okay, so when we talk about, we have government organizations, so state, county, city, special district government, we have Native American tribal government, federally recognized, or Native American tribal government other than federally recognized. So that's for the government organizations. You have education organizations. I'm talking here about independent school districts, public and state controlled institutions of higher education. We have private institutions of higher education. We're speaking about colleges, private colleges, and universities. You have public housing organizations. I'm speaking here about public housing authorities, Indian housing authorities, and nonprofit organizations. So nonprofit having 501c3, and those that do not have 501c3. And then you have for-profit organizations. So organizations other than small businesses. So what I'm trying to say here is what? You have to really know the specific type of organization that you belong to and know how to apply from there. Otherwise, you need to apply as an individual. So step number 1, learn about the whole grant making machine in the States here. Step number 2, you want to make sure that you are eligible before applying. But I just want to quickly remind you that we are speaking today about how to get free grant money this year. Step number 3, you need to search. See, now that you need to find federal grants that align with your work or your initiative. And again, this can happen at the organization level, at the team level, or at the individual level. So when you go to grants.gov, the platform is really rich. You can apply by opportunity status. So here you can see that the opportunities that are posted, closed, archived, forecasted. The good thing is that even if an opportunity is closed, you can still research it to see what kind of grant, how much money was granted in the past on that specific opportunity, so you can plan in the future. Okay, there's a whole process that goes around. Well, I mean, we call it. You want to backdate opportunities and try to see the data to plan future opportunities when it comes to applications. On grants.gov, you can search by opportunity status. I was just saying. You can search by funding instrument type. We're speaking about all funding instruments, cooperative agreements, grants, other procurement contract. You can search by eligibility. So we're speaking about city or township government, county government, for-profit organizations, independent school district, individuals, okay, and so on and so forth. You can also you can search by category. So there is a constellation of categories on grants.gov. And when we speak about categories, I'm speaking about everything from agriculture, arts, to business and commerce, community development, consumer protection. We have education, energy, and so on and so forth. Okay, and so everything, once you go to the grants.gov website, everything will be clear to you in terms of how the search criteria actually operate. Okay, you can also search by agencies. So we're speaking here about, you can go with the let's say the USAID, for example. You can go for the Department of Energy, Department of Defense. You have the Department of Agriculture. The whole thing here is when you talk about grants, you have to understand not a lot of agencies, federal agencies, are present in the grant making machine, but you have Department of Agriculture, so USDA, Commerce, okay, Defense, DOD. You have Education, AD, and Energy. Okay, so those are the critical department that grants actually federal money. Step number 4, what I want you to do now, I want you to register. See, you have learned about the grant making machine at the federal level and at the state level. You have checked the organization that actually can qualify, right? You have searched for the grants. Now it's all about registering on grants.gov. So you need to sign up with grants.gov to apply using Workspace. So Workspace is a wonderful platform that exists on the grants.gov website that allows you to register for grants and also apply. So registering with the grants.gov is really fast. You can have one account to manage all your profiles, applications, and subscriptions. So everything is centralized. So through one application, one central application, you're able to apply for multiple grants. Okay, remember that the registration rather, you want to complete all the required form fields. It's very easy. You want to confirm your email address, and you want to add an organization applicant profile or an individual applicant profile after registering, because the government wants to make sure that you are either an individual or an organization or a team member. Okay, so when we talk about the applicant registration on grants.gov, it's very easy, it's self-explanatory. Okay, you have to just make sure. So you can add one profile per name. And once you add a profile, you can change what kind of profile you want it to be. For example, you can be John Doe, but John Doe represent organization XYZ. Or you can be John Doe representing himself or herself, Jane Doe for that matter. Or you can be John Doe representing a team, okay, called XYZ. So to register on grants.gov, okay, as I said before, it's very self-evident, self-explanatory. You put your name, your first and last name. You put your bio, part of your date of birth, all that kind of stuff, and they'll ask you for your password. You have to choose a username. Remember, you have through the centralized process thing. So through the centralized process, you can use one account to manage and coordinate several grants and several applications. Not a problem. You have to choose a password, but again, those are very important. And what will happen here is that please make sure that you subscribe to grants.gov communications. It's very important. Subscribe so that you can get all the juicy thing, all the relevant information happening in the grant making world. You need to subscribe. Don't worry, the government is not going to spam you. Okay, whatever they send you is irrelevant. Trust me on that. Step number 5, boss. I'm still talking to you today about how to get free grant money this year. So step number 1, you have to learn. Number 2, you have to check. Number 3, you have to search the grants. Number 4, you have to register on grants.gov. Number 5, now it's important to apply, right? You've done all the research, you found the grants that you really want to apply for. It's about time you took the final step. Okay, so remember, everything happens on a platform called Workspace. So Workspace is part of grants.gov. It's actually a central space where you apply for grants. Okay, the thing here is that you can actually, there are several layers, if you will. If you have several layers whereby you can apply on Workspace. Workspace is the standard way for organizations or individuals to apply for federal grants in grants.gov. Workspace allows a grant team to simultaneously access and edit different forms within an application. In addition, the forms can be filled out online or offline, your choice. This is really great. And grants.gov Workspace also allows applicants and organizations to tailor their application workflow. Okay, so there are actually 3 approaches that you as an applicant, you can take when completing a Workspace application. Only 3. So option number 1, you can have basic plus, basic basically means what? Basic means that you only have 1 or 2 registered grants.gov users. Okay. You have intermediate, that's great for organizations. So you have organizations that have 3 to 5 registered grants.gov users. And then you have the advanced profile, which is great for organizations with external grants.gov users, such as consultants. Okay. The thing here is that you have to see whatever works for you. Okay. Now make sure, if you go with the basic, make sure at least one person at your organization is registered and has one of the core AOR roles. So we're speaking here about the grants coordinator roles. Okay. And then if you have, let's say if you have intermediate, again, it depends on your organization. Make sure that you have at least 2 persons. And if you have an advanced, it's great. Make sure that you have several administrators. So the point I'm trying to make is what? Registering, if you're an individual, if you're applying for a grant yourself, it's very easy. You just go to Workspace and you fill in the form, you identify the grants you want to apply for, and then you just make sure that you are eligible and you submit documentation. Step number 6. So after you actually submit the application for a grant, you need to track, right? You need to enter your grants.gov tracking number for your submission status. We have an entire show that will cover the grant writing process, the grant auditing process, the grant tracking process. But just make sure that here, what I'm trying to say here is that after you submitted your grant application, there you have to track it, okay? And the thing here is that if you don't hear from the grant making organization, you can email support@grants.gov, okay? or you can just visit their support page. They're very responsive though, depending on their backlog. Okay. The thing here is that if you're trying to track your grant writing progress, there are a few things you can do. You can research grant opportunities based on organizational goals or individual goals. You can organize grant opportunities by due date to manage deadlines, because this is very important. Let's say you apply for 2 or 3 or 4 grants simultaneously. It's important that you have a system in place where you can actually organize those grants and coordinate them. Because the last thing you want is to be late on one grant or several grants at the same time. Okay, you want to make a checklist of all application requirements. And the thing here is that you want to write, revise, and submit your grant application. Now, the thing here you have to understand, when we speak about writing, revising, and submitting your grant application, if you're not a grant writer, because there is a whole industry of grant writers who specialize in this particular field, all they do day and night is to help, organizations and individuals like you write grants, write successful grants, write captivating grants, write compliant grants. That's what you want. You want to be in that space. Okay. And remember, you have to schedule. After submitting your grant application, you have to schedule the application follow-up and any required reporting, because the thing is that the grant making organization might require you to have a follow-up meeting, or even follow up on a few other things. They might even audit you if the funds have been dispersed. They might ask for additional information. Step number 7, boss. You need to get ready for audits after approval. See, the whole thing is that you have received the cash, you have submitted all the paperwork, you have complied with everything. There is something post-approval. There is a phase post-approval whereby the grant organization makes sure that the funds are being used effectively, and they are in compliance with the required grants requirements. Okay, and with the required guidelines. What I want to say here is that when we speak about grants in general, what happens before approval is not that complicated. You can really have an idea of how to write it, how to comply with everything. But once you get the funds, especially federal funds, you have to be in a situation where you're able to corroborate, to substantiate every expense that you make. Okay, make sure that you create an audit trail so that if something happens, you are able to explain disbursements, you're able to explain expenses. Okay, think about your timesheet allocations. Think about your bookkeeping. Okay, you want to constantly assemble necessary documentation. Okay, you want to constantly make sure that you think about things like bank statements, prepaid item lists, outstanding invoices, schedule of wages and accrued vacation. We're talking about Form 990, 990, the 1099s that you have issued, details of grants received, and the payroll information. This is very important when we talk about necessary documentation. Those are things that grant auditors will want to check, okay? And to make sure that you constantly prepare yourself for whatever audit you have. The thing here is that there are some scheduled audits and there are some random audits. And a lot of federal organizations might actually audit your organization or yourself randomly. You might get an audit letter telling you, hey, listen, we will show up at your address tomorrow to verify certain things. So you have to constantly be in a situation where you are in compliance, okay? And documentation, bookkeeping, paperwork, audit trail, those are very important, okay? You want to think about creating an audit trail at all time. This will help you out. Thank you so much for your attention to this conversation. I just explained to you how to get free grant money. Let me quickly recap here. Step number 1, you have to learn. Familiarize yourself with the grant making world. Number 2, you want to check whether you are eligible as an individual, as a team member, or as an organization. Step number 3, you want to search for the grants the grant opportunities that you are basically that might be of interest to you. Step number 4, you want to register. on grants.gov. Step number 5, you want to apply for the specific grant opportunity that you have zeroed in on. Step number 6, you need to track. Once you submit the grant, your grant application, you have to track that application to make sure that everything is fine. And after that, you need to get ready for audits after approval. Thank you so much. I'll speak to you another time, but until then, stay marvelous.